Alright, what's up guys? Here with Rob Eastman, a good friend, coach, and mentor of mine, and also the founder of the Eastman Family Recovery Foundation, where they focus on addiction recovery and suicide awareness. And so I wanted to get on here because I know we've been talking a lot about the mental wellness space, because I believe when it comes to true health and being fully healthy, a big portion of that is not only obviously the physical portion, but also the mental component. And especially the world we live in, I think it's something that definitely needs to be addressed and talked about. And so I want to have Rob on here and kind of talk a little bit about how his foundation came to be, his experience, and maybe some of the lessons that he's learned, not only for himself, but also working with the people he's been working with in the foundation. So how did you get started with the foundation initially?
What's up, everybody? The foundation was started because of my journey with mental illness, and I wanted to get some mental wellness. So early in my life, I struggled with ADHD. I studied with not being able to sleep. I was bullied. I developed depression, anxiety, and all of these things at such a young age that we're really not equipped to deal with those things. So as we age, we start to find drugs or bad relationships or pharmaceuticals, whatever it is. And once I became, fast forward 31 years, I found myself with a newborn daughter. I was an IV drug user and ready to end my life. I ended up above the Bountiful Temple in Bountiful, Utah, and with a gun in my mouth, and was ready to call it quits, and had an aha moment. And after that, I found a guru in the fitness world, one of my mentors, and he took me into his gym, and he taught me so much about life skills through fitness, and how there's so much psychology that goes into every workout, and I didn't really ever see fitness that way. I wanted to look good and feel good, but I didn't understand the message behind it. And the biggest message was learn how to do hard things in a safe environment. And that's really kind of where my path for fitness came. It's like every time you get tired, what do? I think most of you are probably going to go to get a drink or grab your towel or step off the treadmill. And he taught me to stay on and not finish, not quit until the workout was over. And part of that is when life hits and you're struggling in life, what do? Do you give up? Do you get out of the bad relationship, or do you stay in the bad relationship? The biggest thing is pushing forward, learning how to stand and fight. And that's really, I went on to be turned into an ultramarathoner, MMA cage fighter, all these things that were terrifying that I didn't really want to do that I needed to do. And it wasn't until I stood and faced my fears that I was diagnosed bipolar, anxiety disorder, ADHD, pretty much anything that they could find in the psychology book. I was diagnosed, and I've been off of all medications for over 5-6 years now, I think. And my life has changed, but the suggestion is to work with doctors and to find those life skills behind it, and I learned mine through fitness.
That's awesome. So, and this actually brings me to a question that I think a lot of people, I get asked a lot, and that is, because you see a lot of people being prescribed, all these different medications, from ADHD medications to antidepressants and all that. And I'm sure we can all agree that I think big pharma has a place, and it definitely serves a benefit. But what's your feeling as far as right now in the current climate? Do you think that we're using that almost as a crutch in a sense, rather than trying to address other components of our health and our lifestyle that could potentially be helping us mitigate some of these symptoms?
So think of it like a broken leg. They give you a cast, and your leg is going to heal if you stay off of it. It's the same with anxiety. If you take the medication, like a lot of people, you get suicidal, or you start to worry about those things, or you're clinically depressed, there's definitely a place for that. But you don't have to stay clinically depressed. You learn the life skills and you work on them. Just like you go and you work your chest. How do you get a big chest?
Go to the gym and
how
lift.
Do you get big legs?
Yep, lift.
You work them.
Yep.
What if your kid sucks at math? What do? Make them study.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a weakness in your life, if you struggle from depression, if you struggle from anxiety, wouldn't you want to learn how to develop skills to combat that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I always use the excuse, and people talk about the zombie apocalypse. We're going to have that if we have a natural disaster. We got a bunch of people who don't know, who can't manage their life for more than a day or two without their meds. What if the pharmacy shuts down? What if the hospitals are closed? Mm-hmm. We're going to have a bunch of people running around eating people's faces off or whatever it is. But, when it came down to that point, I just knew that I wanted to learn more. And the biggest thing is you got to feel it to heal it. And if we constantly avoid feeling uncomfortable things, then we're never going to grow as a race, as a human being. And, leg day. How's that for everybody? It ruins your entire week. Still got to do it, right?
Yeah.
You still face that. But when it's emotional, it's a lot harder for people. And there's that stigma behind it of people not wanting to talk about it that's ruining our country. You've got to be able to talk about it. You've got to be able to look your friend in the eye and be like, I know you're struggling. What's up? And you got to be strong enough to be like, dude, I'm thinking about killing myself. And there's help, There are lights at the end of the tunnel. He's a light, I'm a light. There's a million of us out there who are willing to help. But you got to be strong enough. Take the strength you get in the gym to help propel your emotional strength out to your friends and your surroundings and let people know what's really going on.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest.
So early on, with your whole story and journey, because it sounds like, obviously growing up, you had a lot of tribulations and mental things that you were battling with on a daily basis. As you started on that road to recovery and started, you made that decision, decided to kind of take your life in a different direction. What were some of the things that you began to implement initially? Was it were there any things nutritionally that you found that helped you, or was it specific things that you were just doing on a daily basis that you felt kind of kept you grounded during that time?
Yeah, so for me, I'm glad you said the nutrition thing. So for me, I had so much anxiety that I would forget to eat. So a lot of the times when I would get this big anxiety rush, it was because I was hungry. Mm-hmm. So I would wake up and I hadn't eaten and I'd drink coffee and then I'd wonder why I was anxious all day. So every time I felt anxious or had anxiety, I would go and eat. And if I still felt that way after, then I'd address what had just happened. Like 80% of the time, it went away. So understanding what we put in our body, when we put it in our body. Most people wake up, drink a Monster or drink caffeine, and they wonder why they're anxious all day. Because you just put a bunch of caffeine in your system, you're empty, and you're all hopped up, and it manifests itself like an anxiety attack.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not aware of that. And that was a huge... I quit drinking caffeine, started eating right, and that played a major role. On top of a lot of self-study on my specific diseases of bipolar, depression, anxiety, that I would take those lessons out of the psychology book and I would try and apply them in my workout. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense, and if it doesn't, we can talk.
So yeah, can you give an example?
So when you don't want to go to the gym and you have to show up, my trainer, he made me a deal. He said, look, make me the deal that you will show up to the gym every single day. If I can't talk you out of staying, then you can go. And 9 times out of the 10, by the time I was there, I was ready to go. Mm-hmm. It's just making that first step. Anxiety and depression keep you stuck. If you're religious, I believe it's the adversary. He's got his claws in you, and all he has to do is just pull once really hard, and you're used to quitting. You've got to fight back. You've got to learn how to apply those skills of being so sick and tired of being sick and tired that you're ready to fight no matter what.
Yeah, so it's you mainly, a lot of it was just kind of not even so much about going in there and physically working out, but it was just that mental, perseverance and trying to battle through something tough. But I want to talk about what you were saying as far as, overstimulating yourself first thing in the morning for Monsters or coffee or any of that stuff, and then wondering why you have these physical feelings of anxiety. What most people don't realize is that it's a negative feedback loop where yes, if you get anxious, there's a physiological response that happens in your body. But a lot of people don't acknowledge the fact that there's also things that you can be doing that's causing that physiological response and therefore causing you anxiety. And I talked about this on my Instagram the other day about teaching yourself just how to breathe properly. And I know we had that breath specialist come in and talk to us about deep diaphragmatic breathing, but it's so crucial. And I've recognized this in myself, and I don't necessarily feel like it's something that I struggle with, but I mean, everybody on a daily basis has stress, and everybody goes through times where they feel anxious or they feel panicked. And I've always noticed one of the first obvious symptoms of that is I'm getting this short, shallow breathing, and I'm breathing directly through my chest. And so one of the things that I began to implement that's really just helped me just feel more balanced and just calm and I guess alleviate a lot of that stress is just I meditate every single day. And I don't know if that's something that you do, but I mean, just throughout the day being aware of how you're breathing and kind of how your body's physiologically responding in that moment when you are feeling anxious, I think is huge. So do you do any sort of breathing practices or anything as part of your routine that kind of helps you get in that mental state?
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head is self-awareness.
Uh-huh.
Like my favorite is the exercise-induced asthma.
Yeah.
I call that bad cardio. It's like you'd rather put a medicine in your body to calm your lungs down than just figure it out. Mm-hmm. So we wake up, meditate. My wife meditates, yoga, but calming your mind enough to understanding what is actually going on with your system.
Yeah.
It's like we feel it and then we act. Rather than feel, think, act, we feel, act, then we think after.
Yeah.
By that time we've had the alcohol, we've drank, we've taken the pill, we've done whatever it is, and it repeats that cycle. So taking that time to start your day off mindfully is huge. Mm-hmm. Mindfulness is a major misstep, especially in fitness. You talk, what's his name, who commands his muscles to grow?
Oh, C.T. Fletcher.
Yeah. C.T., when he's lifting, he's talking, he's like, you have to make a connection with your chest and command those muscles to grow.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any more mindful than that. And the guy's a monster, right? If you're in fitness or anything else, if you're going to do a job interview and you get so much anxiety that you can't get the job interview, you don't even show up. Mm-hmm. It's like, do you want to repeat that cycle or do you want to face your demons and kind of dig in? And I think that breathing and meditation is huge.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing
What up, Brian?
speaks as far as changing your nutritional patterns, and this is something that I've talked about over and over again, because in reality, willpower is only going to get you so far. What's going to actually allow something to stick, a lifestyle, a habit, whatever, is learning to develop that awareness and make better connections to what's actually going on inside of your body based off of the actions that you're taking. And I always use nutrition as a big example because what's the one thing that most people focus on when they're deciding what food to eat? Taste, right? Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that people are aware of when saying, oh, what do I want to have for dinner? What sounds good? What sounds like it would taste good? When in reality, there's a lot of other factors that come into play, and developing this awareness I think is one of the most crucial steps if you want to be in a better place mentally, is to not only think about what's going to taste good, because in reality what's going to taste the best in that moment is probably not what's going to be best for our bodies, but what's going to be best is paying attention to these other things. I want something that's going to make me feel good, that's going to give me energy, it's going to help me sleep better, it's going to help my digestion, because all of these things, if you're reducing inflammation in your body, it's just going to help, same thing, eliminate a lot of that stress and anxiety response. And so I think it's so huge to just start to be more reflective of the things that's going on. Like recognize, okay, when I am feeling these anxious or sad thoughts, reflect on that. Reflect on, how's my breathing right now? What is it that happened? Was it anything that happened? Was it something that I ate that maybe caused that response? Because once you can start to make those connections, I think it makes it a lot easier for you to make better decisions down the road.
Yeah, I agree. It's that instant gratification.
Yeah.
Or like, you're having a bad day, so you eat a tub of ice cream. Or you go get the cheeseburger and it's just a cheat meal, and it ends up being a week-long cheat meal. You know, so being able to stand in that moment and, like you said, feel it and then make the right decision is the key to, I think, everything. You know, I work in this book, and it talks about you feel something, most people then act and then think about it after, because we get our feelings hurt, or we get so scared from the depression or anxiety that we just want it gone. But like you were saying, you've got to see what triggered it. Was it something your boss said? Was it something your wife or husband said? Was it something you put into your body? And start to understand how you work. Like, there's all these diets and things, but like I say, everybody and every body is different.
Yeah.
So what works for us is not necessarily going to work for you. You've got to work on those things, and you got to experience a little bit of pain in order to find what's going to be best for you.
Yeah, I agree. So as far as, because I know you've worked with a lot of individuals as far as helping them overcome their own struggles and addictions and battles, what would you say is the one thing that's kind of universally a pattern as far as things that somebody should be applying if they really want to overcome those struggles? Or maybe even, what's one of the things that you found that's really hangs people up, that a pitfall that they'd be able to avoid, you know, if they are trying to get on that road to recovery and improve their life and mental state?
The first one is being willing to do hard things. The other is lack of confidence. I think when you get to that point, when the people that I work with or things like that we've had so many fails in our life that we don't trust ourselves to be successful. So we either, you know, we'll find ego and act tough or whatever it is, but we've become really good at manipulation, and that's easier than actually doing the hard work. And the main thing we do is let people know that they're loved enough, and then kind of walk them through the day and teach them how to do hard things. You know, face their anxiety. And once you sit and you face your anxiety, you find out that it could be as simple as a word or a tone that somebody gave you that makes you feel insecure, that brings that anxiety out in you. But as soon as you understand that and you can eliminate that trigger, your anxiety doesn't come back as strong. And the more you do that, the better it becomes. And that's a really hard thing when you're struggling with anxiety or depression or suicidal thoughts. Like, I was either happy or suicidal.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I understood that there was like 52 steps that should have gone in between those two that I gave myself a break, saying, okay, if I think about suicide, something just happened and I need to focus on that. Not focus on, oh, I should kill myself. You know, it's definitely a disconnect. Everybody's worth loving, and there's no reason to die, right? But in those moments, man, I had a few guns against my head. And looking back at it now, I don't want anybody to have to ever go through that. And there's definitely a way out. And it's just having the right people around you to hold your hand when you got to do tough stuff. You don't have to do it alone.